For 2 centuries after joining the Galactic Confederation, humanity kept its true power hidden from alien eyes. To everyone in the vast reaches of space, Earth seemed like just another insignificant planet, a newcomer that barely understood the complexities of interstellar politics. "We need to maintain the illusion," Director Tay said during the annual security briefing. He stood tall despite his 70 years, addressing the small group of military leaders and government officials who knew the truth. "Our public fleet remains 12 outdated cruisers, nothing more." The official story was simple. Earth's military capabilities consisted of these 12 ships, all purchased second-hand from the Arctuvian Empire, all running on technology that other species had outgrown decades ago. The Confederation representatives who occasionally visited Earth saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see, a struggling young species trying to find its place among the stars. But deep within the icy realm of the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune's orbit where few alien ships ever ventured, something extraordinary was happening. Hidden among thousands of asteroids and planetoids, massive construction facilities operated in complete secrecy. Here, under the leadership of Commander Hana, the most brilliant engineers from every continent worked tirelessly on Project Sentinel. "Shift change in 10 minutes, announced the facility's AI as Commander Hana made her daily inspection. Through the observation window, she watched as workers assembled the outer hull of what would become the flagship of Earth's true fleet, a vessel incorporating technologies that would make even the most advanced Confederation engineers gasp. "How many ships can we deploy now if needed?" she asked her assistant, Captain Jun. 500 combat-ready vessels, Commander. Another 300 in final assembly stages." The scale of the deception was unprecedented. While Earth's representatives smiled politely at Confederation meetings and accepted scraps of technology as generous gifts from the established powers, these hidden shipyards were creating an armada that could challenge any force in the known. Galaxy Project Sentinel had begun as a simple insurance policy. Early in their membership, human observers noticed a disturbing pattern within the Confederation. Species designated as protected often found themselves exploited, their resources harvested, their sovereignty gradually eroded. Those who resisted typically faced extinction, always through unfortunate conflicts or natural disasters that somehow benefited the dominant powers. "My grandfather was at first contact," Director Tay often told new recruits to the program. He said he saw both wonder and hunger in the alien eyes, wonder at finding new life, hunger for what they could take from us. The Kuiper Belt facility, where most ships were built, spanned hundreds of kilometers, hidden within a hollowed-out dwarf planet. Workers lived there in rotating 6-month shifts, their families told they were on deep space research missions. The secrecy was necessary. Even a hint of the project's existence would bring the full might of the Confederation down on Earth. "We've improved the quantum shielding," Engineer Sue explained during the weekly briefing, pointing to diagrams that showed technology no other species had even theorized yet. Direct hits from Arctuvian disruptor cannons would now require 15 seconds to penetrate our smallest vessels. Commander Hana nodded approvingly. "And the gravitational weapons?" "Tested successfully last month. One destroyer could now disable an entire enemy battle group without causing casualties. This was the heart of Project Sentinel's philosophy. Defensive superiority rather than destructive capability. Humanity had seen enough war in its history to know better than to build planet killers, despite having the technology to do so. In the 2 centuries since joining the Confederation, Earth had played its role perfectly. Human diplomats appeared, appropriately grateful for any technological gifts. Trade agreements always slightly favored the older species. Earth never complained when denied access to certain scientific conferences or when its petitions for expanded colonization rights were repeatedly delayed. "Sir, the Arctuvian ambassador is requesting another tour of our lunar defense station," a young officer reported to Director Tay. "Show him the same outdated facility as last time. Have some systems malfunction during his visit." This charade had continued for generations. Children grew up learning both the public history taught in schools and, for the select few brought into the program, the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. The extinction of the Nelvarians 50 years earlier had only reinforced the need for Project Sentinel. The Confederation had declared their demise the result of a tragic asteroid impact, yet somehow their resource-rich worlds had been redistributed to Arctuvian control before the dust had settled. As darkness fell over the Kuiper Belt facility, Commander Hanna stood alone at the viewport, watching distant specks of light that represented ships in final testing phases. She thought of her grandmother, one of the original architects of Project Sentinel, who never lived to see it completed. "We're not building this fleet to conquer," she whispered to herself, repeating the project's founding principle. "We're building it so that humanity never finds itself on the growing list of extinct, protected species." Little did she know that, in just a few short weeks, the Arctuvian Empire would force humanity's hand, and Project Sentinel would finally emerge from the shadows. The message arrived during a routine diplomatic gathering on Mars Colony. The Arctuvian ambassador, tall and imposing with his characteristic blue-tinted skin, handed a data crystal to Earth's chief representative. "A formal request from my government," he said, his translator device barely masking the smugness in his voice. "We trust you'll find the terms reasonable." Later that evening, in the secure conference room of Earth's Diplomatic Corps headquarters, a grim-faced team examined the contents of the crystal. The request was nothing short of a demand. The Arctuvian Empire wanted exclusive mining rights to all of Jupiter's resource-rich moons, effective immediately. "They're calling it payment for 2 centuries of protection," said Chief Diplomat Lee, her voice tight with anger. "Protection we never asked for and never needed." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Jupiter's moons contained some of the solar system's most valuable minerals and gases, enough to fuel Earth's growing colonies for generations. More importantly, 3 of these moons housed secret shipyards critical to Project Sentinel. "They've given us 10 days to respond," Lee continued, "and made it clear that rejection is not an option." "We need to stall," said her deputy, sliding a tablet across the table. "I've drafted 7 different diplomatic responses, each designed to buy us more time without directly refusing." The first delay tactic worked. Earth requested clarification on 14 separate points in the Arctuvian proposal. This bought them an additional week. The second approach involved suggesting a series of counter-proposals, each carefully crafted to seem reasonable while being ultimately unacceptable to the Arctuvians. Meanwhile, deep in the secured bunker, beneath Old Sol, Admiral Gia reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Arctuvians weren't just making demands, they were positioning for force. Long-range scanners had detected a battle group of 30 Arctuvian warships moving toward the outer edges of the solar system. "They're not here for negotiations," Admiral Gia said to his staff. "They've already decided to take what they want." On day 23 of what was becoming a crisis, Earth's delegation was summoned to the Galactic Confederation Council's massive orbital station. The circular chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from over 300 species, seemed especially cold that day. One by one, Earth's supposed allies spoke in favor of the Arctuvian position. "Humanity has benefited greatly from Confederation protection," said the Vexalian representative, his tentacles waving in what his species considered a conciliatory gesture. "It is only fair that you contribute to the common good." By the end of the session, the verdict was clear. The Confederation Council, dominated by species with long-standing ties to the Arctuvian Empire, had given humanity an ultimatum: comply with the Arctuvian demands within 30 days or face a protective occupation of the solar system. "They've already decided," Lee whispered to her team as they boarded their shuttle back to Earth. "This was never a negotiation." 3 days later, long-range sensors confirmed what they had feared. A massive Arctuvian invasion fleet had entered the solar system, comprising over 200 warships. They were currently holding position just beyond Neptune's orbit. In the presidential bunker beneath the Himalayas, Earth's highest officials gathered for what might be the most consequential meeting in human history. "They believe we're defenseless," said President Wu, her face illuminated by the holographic display showing the Arctuvian fleet positions. "They expect us to surrender without a fight." Admiral Gia stood, his weathered face showing no emotion. "Madam President, I request authorization to activate Sentinel Protocol." The room grew still. For 2 centuries, Project Sentinel had remained theoretical, a contingency never meant to be revealed unless absolutely necessary. Once deployed, there would be no going back. Humanity's carefully constructed facade of weakness would be shattered forever. President Wu looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person present. "The vote must be unanimous," she reminded them. One by one, each cabinet member and military leader pressed their thumb to the authentication panel. The final authorization came from the President herself. "Sentinel Protocol is now active," she said quietly. "May history judge us kindly." Admiral Gia didn't waste time. From his command center, now transferred to a mobile platform hidden within the asteroid belt, he sent the encrypted signal that would reach every hidden shipyard and concealed base throughout the solar system. "This is not a drill," his message stated simply. "Deployment Phase 1 begins now." That night, as darkness fell across different parts of Earth, families went about their routines, largely unaware of what was happening in the distant reaches of their solar system. Children slept in their beds while parents watched the news, which mentioned only ongoing diplomatic discussions with the Arctuvian delegation. But in the cold vacuum of space, something extraordinary was happening. One by one, 500 vessels, ships that officially didn't exist, powered up their systems. These weren't the clunky, outdated cruisers that Earth publicly acknowledged. These were sleek destroyers, massive battleships, and specialized stealth craft incorporating technologies that the Arctuvians wouldn't believe possible. Commander Hana, now aboard the flagship Defender, watched as her tactical display showed hundreds of green dots moving into pre-planned defensive positions. The stealth technology that Earth had perfected made them completely invisible to Arctuvian sensors. "All ships report ready," her communications officer said quietly, almost reverently. "Defensive grid is at 100%. Position all vessels according to formation Theta," Admiral Gia ordered from the command ship. "No engagement without direct orders. Remember your training. We are here to defend, not to provoke." By dawn, Earth's hidden fleet had completely surrounded the Arctuvian invasion force in a 3-dimensional web of invisible warships. The Arctuvians, still confident in their overwhelming superiority against a supposedly primitive species, continued their advance toward Jupiter, completely unaware that they were already trapped. "Now we wait," Admiral Gia told his officers. "The next move belongs to them." "All ships maintain stealth protocols," came the order from Admiral Gia as the Arctuvian fleet pushed deeper into the solar system. Their massive warships moved with the confidence of predators who expected no resistance, their weapon systems powered down in a display of arrogant certainty. Vice Admiral Q stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, one of Earth's most advanced stealth destroyers. His ship was currently positioned less than 5 kilometers from the Arctuvian flagship, close enough that he could see individual figures moving behind its viewports. Yet the Arctuvians had no idea he was there. "Begin recording," Q ordered quietly. "I want every moment of this documented." The Arctuvian commander had just sent his final ultimatum to Earth: surrender Jupiter's moons immediately or face planetary bombardment. They had given humanity 6 hours to comply. Admiral Gia's response came exactly 5 hours and 59 minutes later. "All ships, disengage stealth systems on my mark." His voice echoed through the communication channels of Earth's hidden fleet. 3, 2, 1, mark. In an instant, 500 warships materialized around the Arctuvian invasion force. One moment, the aliens believed themselves alone in space, poised to claim an easy victory. The next, they found themselves completely surrounded by a fleet that dwarfed their own in both numbers and firepower. On the Arctuvian flagship's bridge, alarms blared as sensors suddenly detected hundreds of vessels, where seconds before there had been nothing but empty space. "Arctuvian command vessel, this is Admiral Gia of Earth's defense fleet," came the transmission on all frequencies, including the supposedly secure Arctuvian military channels. "You have entered sovereign human space with hostile intent. You will power down your weapons, Reverse course and leave our system immediately. The Arctuvian commander, his blue skin turning almost white with shock, stared at the tactical display showing the impossible situation. Human ships, ships that shouldn't exist, had his forces completely encircled. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their technology is primitive. They have only 12 defense cruisers." "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted, voice trembling. "Scans indicate the human vessels possess energy signatures we've never encountered before. Their shield configurations aren't in our database, and their weapons—" He paused. "Sir, they could have destroyed us at any moment during our approach." Throughout the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Every Confederation species had representatives on ships with communication capability. Within hours, videos captured by diplomats and merchants aboard observation vessels began circulating on the galactic network. The footage showed Earth's fleet in all its glory. Not the outdated second-hand cruisers the galaxy had mocked for 2 centuries, but ships of elegant, deadly beauty. Their hulls gleamed with a material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Their engines pulsed with energy that Confederation scientists couldn't identify. "The humans have deceived us all," declared the Vexalian High Minister in an emergency broadcast. "For 2 centuries they have hidden their true capabilities while sitting among us at the Confederation Council." On Bentu Prime, the capital world of the Confederation, diplomatic chaos erupted. Emergency sessions were called. Accusations flew across the chamber. Security forces were placed on high alert. Meanwhile, Vice Admiral Q's complete recording of the confrontation had been uploaded to the Galactic Information Network. The file contained not just visual data of the face-off between fleets, but detailed scans revealing the technological sophistication of Earth's ships. "Look at these readings," an Ilaxian engineer said to her colleagues, pointing at the data stream. "The humans have somehow mastered quantum shielding. We believed that technology was purely theoretical. Their gravitational manipulation systems are at least 3 generations beyond anything the Arctuvians possess," added another scientist, his voice a mixture of professional admiration and personal fear. In a quiet corner of a diplomatic reception, hall on Bentu Prime, 2 representatives from smaller Confederation species whispered together. "The Arctuvians said the humans were harmless," said the first, a representative from a world that had suffered Arctuvian protection for centuries. "Perhaps they're not the only ones who have been underestimated," replied his companion, looking meaningfully across the room to where other representatives of historically oppressed species had gathered. Back in the solar system, the Arctuvian fleet had begun a humiliating retreat. Their commander had attempted to save face by declaring their withdrawal a gesture of good faith pending further negotiations, but no one in the galaxy was fooled. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Gia watched the Arctuvian vessels disappear into the darkness of space. "They'll be back," said his executive officer, "and not alone next time." Gia nodded. "We knew this day would come eventually. 2 centuries of preparation has brought us an advantage, but it won't last forever." In her quarters aboard the Eclipse, Vice Admiral Q reviewed the messages flooding in from across the galaxy. Some were from official diplomatic channels, urgent requests for explanation, thinly veiled threats, expressions of concern. But many more came through unofficial channels, encrypted communications from representatives of species who had long suffered under the protection of the dominant powers. "Is it true?" read one message from a world whose population had been reduced to servitude. "Have you truly found a way to stand against them? The Arctuvians said you would be easily conquered," wrote another, "just as they said about us before they took everything." Q composed a single response and sent it to all of them. "For 2 centuries, humanity has prepared not just for our own defense, but for a galaxy where protection does not mean subjugation. Judge us not by our deception, but by what we do next." On Earth, civilians finally learned the truth as President Wu addressed the planet. Public reaction mixed shock at the scale of the secret with pride in humanity's achievement. Children, who had grown up believing their species was insignificant in the galactic community, suddenly realized they belonged to one of its most technologically advanced civilizations. For generations we have hidden our light, the president said. Now that it shines for all to see, we must use it wisely. As night fell across the planet, people looked up at the stars with new eyes, understanding that everything had changed. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The emergency session of the Confederation Council stretched into its fourth day. The Grand Chamber, designed to host dignified diplomatic exchanges, had descended into something resembling a shouting match. Representatives from over 300 species hurled accusations across the floor, their translator devices struggling to keep up with the emotional outbursts. Deception of this magnitude cannot go unpunished, thundered the Arctuvian High. Commander, his blue skin darkening with rage. For 2 centuries the humans concealed their military capabilities while sitting among us as equals. The Vexalian delegation, longtime allies of the Arctuvians, pounded their appendages against the speaking platforms. We demand immediate sanctions. Their fleet must be surrendered to Confederation control. Earth's diplomatic teams sat quietly, at their designated station, remarkably calm amid the storm. Chief Diplomat Lee had expected this reaction. In fact, she had counted on it. "The representative from Earth may speak," announced the council moderator, a member of one of the few truly neutral species. Lee stood, and the chamber gradually fell silent. Instead of offering a defense or an apology, she simply nodded to her technical assistant, who activated a projection in the center of the hall. "Before we address the questions about our fleet," Lee said, her voice steady, "we would like to present evidence we have gathered over the past 2 centuries. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a planet with lush green continents. This is Nalavis Prime, homeworld of the Nelvarians. Population 60 billion, Confederation membership granted 3 centuries ago." The image shifted to show the same planet, now barren and grey. "This is Nalavis Prime 50 years ago after what the Council records call an unfortunate asteroid impact. No Nelvarians survived today." Before anyone could interject, the display changed again, showing internal Arctuvian military communications, documents that should have been impossible for humans to access. The messages detailed plans for the asteroid redirect operation and subsequent resource acquisition. "We have similar evidence for 27 other extinct or subjugated species," Lee continued, as the display cycled through planet after planet, species after species, all former members of the Confederation, all now gone or enslaved. The chamber erupted again, but differently this time. The major powers shouted for the presentation to stop, while representatives of smaller species called for it to continue. In the midst of this chaos, Captain Day was escorted to the speaking platform. Unlike most of the human delegation dressed in formal diplomatic attire, he wore his fleet uniform, dark blue with subtle insignia that few in the chamber recognized. "I am Captain Day, commanding officer of the defense vessel Horizon," he began, his voice cutting through the noise. "I represent the 5th generation of my family to serve in Earth's hidden fleet. My great-great-grandmother helped design our first stealth systems." He paused, making eye contact with representatives from various worlds. "I want to address the fear I see in this chamber. Many of you believe we built our fleet for conquest. You are wrong. For 2 centuries we've had the capability to strike any world in this chamber. We never have, and we never will." The visual display changed again, showing Earth's fleet specifications, not all of them, but enough to make the point. "Our vessels employ defensive technologies, quantum shielding, non-lethal gravitational disruptors, and system-wide sensor arrays. We built them because we saw what happened to those who couldn't defend themselves." He gestured towards smaller species representatives. "Ask the Tellarites what happened when they refused Arctuvian mining rights. Ask the Juvani what became of their colonies after they voted against Vexalian interests in this very chamber." In the diplomatic enclave adjacent to the council chamber, Earth's president watched the proceedings via secure feed. Beside her, Admiral Gia monitored incoming intelligence reports. "It's confirmed," he said grimly. "The Arctuvians, Vexalians, and Zarathi have all mobilized their fleets. Current trajectories indicate they'll reach our solar system within 2 weeks." President Wu nodded, unsurprised. How many ships? Nearly 1,000 vessels between the three powers. And they still believe what we revealed represents our full capacity? Admiral Gia allowed himself a small smile. Intelligence suggests they think we've shown them everything. Our revealed fleet is impressive enough to concern them, but not enough to deter them. Keep the remaining 70% hidden, the President ordered. For now. Back in the council chamber, Captain Day was finishing his testimony. Humanity doesn't seek to replace one set of oppressors with another, he said firmly. We hid our capabilities because history taught us that power disparities invite exploitation. The strong prey on the weak. It's happened on our own world. Countless times. He looked directly at the Arctuvian delegation. We built our fleet so that never again would a species face extinction through diplomatic manipulation or unfortunate natural disasters. We built it to ensure that the Nelvarians would be the last to disappear from this galaxy due to resource greed. As the session ended for the day, representatives broke into clusters, whispering urgently. The galaxy's power dynamics had shifted overnight, and everyone was recalculating their positions. In a small meeting room, representatives from 17 smaller species gathered around Earth's diplomatic team. Is it true? Asked the Tellarite. Ambassador, her voice barely above a whisper. Could your fleet really stand against the combined might of the three major powers? Chief Diplomat Lee exchanged glances with Captain Day before answering carefully. What you've seen of our capabilities is genuine. Whether it's sufficient, we hope not to find out. What Lee didn't say, what only 12 humans in the entire galaxy knew, was that the revealed fleet was merely a fraction of Earth's true capacity. Deep within the asteroid belts, beneath the clouds of gas giants, and in pocket dimensions that Confederation science had yet to master, the remainder of humanity's armada waited. Aboard his command ship returning to Arctuvian space, High Commander Gorv reviewed battle plans with his generals. The human fleet is impressive, but our combined forces will overwhelm them, he declared confidently. Their mistake was revealing their hand too soon. His tactical officer nodded in agreement. Our projections show we can absorb losses of up to 40% and still achieve victory. Neither of them could know that their projections were based on a fundamental miscalculation, one that would soon change the power structure of the galaxy forever. The combined fleets of the three most powerful species in the galaxy were just days away from Earth. Nearly 1,000 warships moved in perfect formation, their crews confident that they would soon teach humanity a lesson about deception and proper place in the galactic order. On Earth, the War Council gathered deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. Military leaders reviewed defense plans and prepared for what would likely be the most significant battle in human history. All fleet divisions report ready, Admiral Gia announced to the assembled leaders. Evacuation protocols for civilian populations are complete. We can reveal our remaining ships at your command, Madam President. President Wu nodded, her face tight with the weight of the decision before her. What are our projections for casualties if we engage with full force? The holographic display in the center of the room shifted to show battle simulations. Even with Earth's complete fleet revealed, over 1,500 ships with technology superior to anything their enemies possessed, the cost would be enormous. We would likely prevail, said Admiral Gia solemnly, but at least 30% of Earth's fleet would be destroyed. Civilian casualties across all species could reach into the billions if the conflict spreads to populated systems. A heavy silence fell over the room. Victory at such a cost hardly seemed like victory at all. Then Defense Minister Jin, who had been quietly studying the display, stood up. She was the youngest person in the room, having taken her position just months earlier, after a distinguished career in both fleet engineering and diplomacy. Madam President, members of the Council, I believe we're approaching this wrongly, she said. We've spent 2 centuries hiding our strength so we wouldn't be targeted. Now we're preparing to use that strength in exactly the kind of destructive conflict we hope to avoid. She walked to the center of the room and adjusted the holographic display, pulling up images of representatives from the 17 species who had approached Earth's diplomats after Captain Day's testimony. These species have suffered under Arctuvian and Vexalian domination for centuries. They reached out to us not because they saw a new military power, but because they saw hope for a different kind of galaxy. "What exactly are you suggesting?" asked the president. Jin took a deep breath. "I propose we create the Sentient Species Protection Charter, a formal alliance that offers our defensive technologies to any world facing exploitation. We don't need to destroy the oppressors. We just need to make oppression impossible." The idea spread through the room like a wave, faces changing from grimness to thoughtful consideration. "You want to give away our military advantage?" one general asked incredulously. "Not give it away," Jin corrected. "Share it strategically. Our stealth technology, quantum shielding, and early warning systems would transform these 17 worlds from vulnerable targets into difficult ones." Admiral Jia, who had initially frowned at the suggestion, slowly nodded. "Even our most basic defensive systems would make these worlds too costly to subjugate. The Arctuvians have always preferred easy conquests." For the next 12 hours, the War Council debated the details of Jin's proposal. By morning, the Sentient Species Protection Charter had taken shape, a document that would forever change galactic politics. Rather than waiting for the enemy fleets to arrive, humanity took the initiative. Using their superior communication technology, they bypassed the official Confederation channels and broadcast their proposals simultaneously to every world in the galaxy. "People of the Confederation," President Wu began, her image appearing on countless screens across thousands of worlds. "Humanity stands at a crossroads. We could use our hidden strength to fight a war that would bring suffering to billions. Instead, we choose a different path." She explained the charter in simple terms. Earth would share its defensive technologies with any peaceful world that wished to protect itself from aggression. No world would be forced to join, and member worlds would not surrender their sovereignty. "We don't seek to replace the old powers with a new empire," she concluded. "We seek only to ensure that no species ever again faces extinction through exploitation or force." The response was immediate. Before the broadcast had even ended, the 17 species that had already approached Earth's diplomats formally announced their intention to join. Within hours, that number had grown to 30, then 50. Aboard the flagship of the approaching Arctuvian armada, High Commander Gorv received the news with disbelief. "A bluff," he declared to his officers. "They're trying to frighten us with the illusion of widespread support." Then came the second shock. The Tellarites, a species that had been under Arctuvian control for generations, activated previously hidden defensive systems around their homeworld. The technology signature was unmistakably human. "Impossible," whispered Gorv. "When did they install these defenses?" The answer came from his intelligence officer. "They didn't, sir. The humans provided the technology, but the Tellarites built the systems themselves. They've apparently been preparing in secret for years, waiting for this moment." Similar reports flooded in from across Arctuvian-controlled space. World after world revealed defensive capabilities that hadn't existed days before. The carefully constructed power balance that had kept the major species in control for millennia was crumbling by the hour. 3 days later, the combined Arctuvian, Vexalian, and Zorathi fleet halted their advance. After tense negotiations, they agreed to return to their territories, pending formal discussions of the new charter. On Earth, people celebrated in streets across the planet. But in the quiet of her office, Defense Minister Jin reminded President Wu of the reality. "This isn't over," she said. "The old powers won't surrender their privileges easily." "No," agreed the president, "but they've recognized something important. Our greatest weapon was never our hidden fleet. It was our capacity to inspire resistance, to show others that oppression isn't inevitable." As news of the stand-down spread across the galaxy, countless beings on dozens of worlds looked up at their skies with new hope. For the first time in living memory, many could imagine a future where they determined their own destiny. The Human Accord, as it came to be known, marked the beginning of a new era in galactic politics, one where power came not from the ability to destroy, but from the courage to protect.